Let's make dinner. It may not be very exciting, but this dish is so easy and it's so simple and it's always delicious. Jump in and make it with me. Hi, I'm Mary Catherine and welcome to my table. Tonight we're going to make a ground beef veggie skillet. You've got the whole meal all in one dish, and that's the best thing about it. It's so simple and it's so easy to put together. As you can see, I've already started browning my ground beef, and I've just seasoned it well with some salt and pepper. And we're going to let it continue to brown a little bit. And I'm going to show you the veggies that I'm going to use in this skillet tonight. I've got some of them laid out here. I've got about a half a bell pepper. I had a huge onion, so I've got about, a fourth to a third of it. And then I've got a yellow squash. We're going to use some, this is just, it's called coleslaw on the bag, but it's really just cabbage. And that's just a simple way if you don't want to have to even cut your cabbage up. I picked up that bag the other day, and so that's how we're going to use it tonight. And then we're going to add some tomatoes in at the end, just with some canned tomatoes, and then a little bit of garlic for flavor. I'm going to go ahead and add some garlic now to my skillet. And a pretty generous amount, about like that. And I'm going to chop my onion first and add it and let it be cooking with that ground beef while it finishes cooking. These are the things I like to get in first, would be the garlic, the onions, and then probably the pepper. Kind of a rough chop here. It doesn't have to be exactly even. It's going to all cook together. It's just going to add lots of good flavor to our dish. Okay, let me throw this in our skillet. Okay. I'm going to stir this around just a little bit at this point. Okay, now let's leave it. Let's come back and get our pepper ready to go in. Now you can just do the peppers in big strips if you want. I'm going to kind of cut them in strips, and then I'm going to come back, and I'm going to give it about 2 chops in the middle. So we're going to leave them a little bit bigger, but you do it however you like. Okay, now let's throw these in. And the thing that is so wonderful about this dish is that I don't always put the same thing in it every time. I'll use different vegetables just depending on what I have on hand. But you just use the same basic seasonings, the same basic principle, ground beef with some veggies. And then just let them cook all together. I do usually add tomatoes. The tomatoes just seems to kind of bring everything together. But you can do it with different types of tomatoes. If you wanted to use fresh tomatoes, you could. If you wanted to use regular tomatoes or fire-roasted tomatoes, just anything would be fine. I've even used just tomato sauce before if I didn't have actual tomatoes, and it was delicious to do it that way as well. Okay, so now we've got our squash in there. And then at this point, I'm going to go ahead and open up the can of tomatoes and add it first. And then I'm going to put that cabbage on top. Let me give it a quick stir one more time before I add the tomatoes. Let's get this ground beef. Still got a little bit of pinkness, but it's going to continue to cook. It's almost all browned. All right, now let's add our tomatoes. I am not going to drain this can at all. We're going to put it in juice and all. There we go. Okay, now I seasoned my meat pretty well, but I'm going to go back and I'm going to add a little more salt at this point for the veggies, maybe even a little more peppers. You season to taste, however you like it. And then the last thing we're going to add is just our cabbage. And I'm just going to dump this whole bag. Now, it looks like a lot right now, but if you know anything about cooking cabbage, you know it's going to cook way down. And so it's going to be perfect. And at this point, I've got a lid that I'm just going to kind of set lightly on top of it just to help steam that cabbage and let everything cook together and bring it down a little bit. So let's give it just a few minutes, and then our dish will be done. So come back and check it with me in about, 5 or 10 minutes. All right, while it's finishing up, I just wanted to talk about some other options of things you can put in it. I've used broccoli before. You could use spinach. I think a good combination, now that it's fall here in the South, I think if you did something like a sweet potato and spinach combination with the ground beef, I think that would be delicious too. There are just so many options. Whatever you have in your fridge, use it. And I'm going to show you one other thing that I went back and did as it was cooking. I added some garlic parmesan, and you can choose your own spices as well. I just wanted to be sure it was plenty of flavor in this dish tonight. And so I went back and added that as well. So I wanted to tell you that. And honestly, our dish is ready, and it has been right about 10 minutes. And so I'm going to pull this lid off, turn it off, and we're going to plate some up. It smells wonderful. And you can see that cabbage has cooked down, and I've just kind of stirred it into the dish, and our squash is cooked, and everything's just come together. All right, so let's plate up a bowl. And you've got everything here all in one. Your meat, your veggies. Let's put some squash there on top. Make sure we got enough tomatoes on this one too. Get some of that. I'm going to scoot that off. And then I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of parsley I've chopped on top of the bowl. All right, let's give it a taste. See if we can get a little bit of everything in there. There's some tomatoes, and there's the squash. It's really delicious. It just tastes so fresh with all those vegetables in it. And this is one dish that just tastes a little bit different every time I make it, just depending on what I put in it. But it's always a good combination. I hope you'll give it a try today. Thank you so much for joining me today at Mary Catherine's Table. If you like this content and want to see more, like and subscribe and share our videos with your friends if you want. And remember, find someone who needs a little bit of kindness today and give them some of yours.